In this series, I ride the Big Three to commemorate the extraordinary legacy of Thomas Bain, master road builder in South Africa. This is the spectacular Swartberg Pass, the challenging Baviaanskloof, and the beautiful Prince Alfred's Pass. It takes me on a journey of more than 2,200 kilometers from Cape Town all the way to Port Elizabeth and back. Thanks for joining me on this experience and to share the views. Welcome back to Werner's View. It's in honor of Thomas Bain that I'm going to do this trip. And when I talk about the Big Three, it's arguably the biggest and most important passes and roads that he has built in his grand tenure of road building history in South Africa. So the Big Three, the first one is the Swartberg Pass. I'm also going to do the Baviaanskloof in the Eastern Cape. And then I'm also going to do the Prince Alfred Pass from Uniondale to Knysna. Along the way, I'm going to visit many interesting places. I'm not taking the shortest route, you know me by now. Day one starts in Cape Town, riding along the N1 through the Huguenot Tunnel and passing the town of Worcester to go up the Hex River Pass to the town of Toast River and Fontein, and then Langsburg before turning off on the Prince Albert Road to end in the beautiful town of Prince Albert for the first night. The first stretch of this series will take us all the way from Cape Town to the town of Prince Albert. Thanks for joining me. Let's go. And of course, I'm doing this with my Honda CRF 300 Rally, like all previous series. As I said many times, this bike can take me anywhere, and even if I have to do a few hours of tar road riding, it is just a great cruising bike. And suddenly you can see the whole Hex River Valley lying in front of us. This is one of the largest table grape export places in the world. 17 million cartons of table grapes exported every year. We made it to the town of Toast River. Toast River, of course, is primarily known for being a very prominent and important railway junction, specifically for the railway that comes up the Hex River Valley and also connects then Cape Town with the interior. So the railway station in Toast River was already built in 1883. We are crossing the River here. But yeah, Fontein is quite a special town because it really has some beautiful buildings. And on this side is the train station. So this train station was already built in February 1883. The town of Fontein was established in 1878, and the town itself was laid out in 1880. Oh, this is the Lord Milner Hotel. Well, basically through the town already. Here, this is the Transport Museum, so it's all about transport, especially trains and railways. And here on the right hand side is the cricket ground. So yeah, Matjiesfontein, as I mentioned, is a special town. It's got many historic Victorian buildings. I mean, this whole town is like a monument, and that is why this town, in September 1975, it was already declared as a national monument, the whole town. So I mean, if you walk around here, it feels like a museum. Yeah, maybe a little bit of history then on Laingsburg. So Laingsburg as a town was already established in like many towns in this stretch of road, it was built around a train station. The train station was built in 1878, so it's the same year that the town of Matjiesfontein was established. But it wasn't called Laingsburg, it's only called Laingsburg since 1904, when it was named after Sir John Lang. Lang was the Commissioner of Crown Lands, so that was what the town was named after. But of course, Laingsburg is most well known for the devastating flood of 25 January 1981. That was a big disaster when a massive cloudburst caused that Buffels River to flood its banks. If you mention Laingsburg, it is absolutely synonymous with flood, and the big flood of 25 January 1981. I still remember it. I was still a small little boy, and I can even remember from years ago that it dominated the national news and probably international as well. I think the whole idea of a town basically being washed away almost completely, with so many lives lost, so much damage, it's just unimaginable, and this in a place where probably something like that has not happened before, and not since. I mean, it's now, 45 years later, and nothing close to that has happened to it. Oh, I missed the turnoff. I'm staying on the N1 a little bit longer. This is the turnoff to Prince Albert, the R407. Okay, so now it is another 45 kilometers to Prince Albert. We have now made it to the Karoo town of Prince Albert. What a gem. I think this is referred to as the gem of the Karoo. It is such a beautiful town. Maybe just a little bit of history. This town, or a town, was already established here since 1762. It was established on a farm called Kweekfontein, and then in 1842 a part of this town was then bought for establishing the Dutch Reformed Church, and that was the same year, 1842, that the church was then formed. 1842, at that time the town was still known as Albertsburg, but in 1845 the name was changed to Prince Albert, and that was in honor of Queen Victoria's consort, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg. Yeah, so Queen Victoria played a part here as well, even though it's in much earlier times than, say, Matjiesfontein and so on. Just look at this. Is the Swartberg Hotel, the famous Swartberg Hotel. This is probably the most popular place to stay in Prince Albert. Let's have a look. I actually, when I researched it a bit, I couldn't find a date for the church. But yeah, the church was established in 1842. Whether this church is so old, I don't know. Quite a formidable steeple, a beautiful church. Yeah, what a friendly reception here from Megan, and she showed me to my room. You enter it here. So with a little kitchen, even a oven and stove and a microwave, toaster, everything is just here. Quite a spacious bathroom. Perfect for what I need to stay for the night. Day 2 takes us from Prince Albert to the spectacular Swartberg Pass, where we make a turn off onto the Baviaanskloof road at the summit, and we go all the way down to the Hell. We then turn around and head back to the Swartberg Pass to descend down the southern slopes, make a quick detour at the Congo Caves before heading to the town of the Rust. About what a day I have planned, leaving here from Prince Albert. Okay, so this is the exit of Prince Albert on the southern side, and now we just have to go about 2 kilometers to turn onto the R328, which is the road that will take you to Oudtshoorn. But this is no ordinary road. This is the Swartberg Pass. In this stretch of the Swartberg, there's basically 3 places where you can get through the mountain. So towards the east is Meyringspoort, and Meyringspoort is a poort that we will ride tomorrow. And then more towards the west is the Seweweekspoort. They are extremely, until today, prone to flooding. So if there's significant rain and the rivers come down quite heavily, the roads are damaged or it is simply flooded and you cannot use it. So in 1875, for example, just look at this. There were heavy rains, and both the Seweweekspoort and Meyringspoort were closed for several weeks. Look how narrow it becomes here already. Yeah, so that happened in 1875, and that was before the Swartberg Pass existed, of course. And then the Cape government decided they need another pass, another road through these mountains, and they commissioned Thomas Bain, the master road builder, to come up with plans to build it. And in 1879 he did present plans to the government, and there were 4 options, and they chose the best one, and it was approved in 1880. Now I think the idea was from the beginning for Thomas Bain to build this pass, but he couldn't start building in 1880 because he was still busy with the Tsitsikamma road. So they actually did not assign the building of the pass to him then initially. So in 1881 it was assigned to a person called John Tassie, who started building it with 100 laborers, but that did not go well. After 13 months he progressed only 6 kilometers. He was declared insolvent, so he was bankrupt by that time, and he could not build it. So by 1883 Thomas Bain was available, and the government asked him to build this pass. In 1883 he started building it, between 200 and 300 laborers. So this was the 17th pass or road that Thomas Bain built, so this was also his last. It is his crowning achievement, that I think there's no doubt. Of course his famous father is Andrew Geddes Bain, who also was a master road builder, and Thomas Bain learned a lot from him. But I think what makes this pass to me, one of the picks of my big 3, is I think this is a pass that has it all. It's got beautiful roads along the valley with the river, it's got steep inclines, it's got very tight turns and incredible views. And I think then the cherry on the cake, of course, is that when you reach the summit, there's another road that goes down into the Baviaanskloof, and that is what we're also going to do. So once we reach the summit, I will make the turn to the Baviaanskloof for probably a very, very interesting detour on the Swartberg Pass. I'm not sure if you're able to see the GPS here in front, but that is what you want to see if you want roads of adventure. There you can see the road going up. Yeah, the climbing is starting now. So this dry wall or dry stone building method was one of the methods that Thomas Bain has perfected. So you can see it's still intact today. Built from 1883 to 1888. So yeah, still very much used as originally built. Maybe just another interesting fact about this pass when it was built. So he had the 200 to 300 laborers, and every day they slaughtered 16 sheep and 1 ox so that the meals could be provided to the builders of this pass. I find that specific kind of statistics very interesting. Now this section must have been very tough to build. Yeah. From here I can also see the road that goes into Knysna. So Knysna now follows in a westerly direction. You ride on the top of the Swartberg mountain, then you go down into Knysna. Okay, so for the next 37 kilometers, I don't expect the roads to be this good. They say 2 hours traveling time, so I think you will agree with me that to take 2 hours to take 37 kilometers can only sound like incredible adventure. Yeah, and the turnoff is here amongst beautiful, beautiful proteas. Just look at this. Yeah, Annelie will love this. Access to the Knysna was always an issue. I mean, this fertile valley was already discovered in the early 1800s, and by 1830 it was started to be settled by farmers. But this road was only built in 1962 by a person named Koos van Zyl. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful yellow flowers, and then the pink proteas. It's like a garden. Look at it. Well, this is of course a very, very long cul-de-sac, so I will be returning a bit later today on this road. So yeah, I can enjoy it twice in one day. How good is that? I think we are now at the start of the Eland Pass. Now this, I would assume, must have been the most crucial part of the road that needed to be built in 1962 to get, well, connection to the Swartberg Pass. What is significant about this pass is that it descends 477 meters in 4.7 kilometers. So that gives you an exact average gradient of 1 to 10. This is now freewheeling, and as I said, this afternoon I am returning, so then it will be a steep ascent. Welcome to Baviaanskloof, the hell. Maree, Kordier and Andries Maree, so you can see the Maree and the Kordier names are quite prominent here. Fontaine Pass. Says there, Ouma Sunny's winkel and restaurant. Yeah, so I made a stop here at Fontaine Pass. It is so quiet and peaceful. So I'm going to go and have a look inside and maybe get a cool drink or so. I'm feeling a bit hot now. It was quite a rough road down. Wonderful spot to come and relax, get a cool drink and just experience the hospitality of this valley a bit. So I just got myself a Coca-Cola and getting a bit refreshed. So this Baviaanskloof Valley, I'm not sure how far you can really go, but I think at least another 20 kilometers or so you can ride down the valley. But it remains narrow. At its widest point, it is about 600 meters wide. So it does open up a bit. There's 2 or 3 places I want to stop. The first place is the school, because this community, I mean, at the heyday of this community, it was about 160 people that stayed here in this valley. And they farmed this valley for about 130 years. So they had to look after themselves. I mean, they had to support themselves. So they built a school. I think they also used that school for church. So I think it's down here is the school. You just go down. But you need to boonderbash a bit here. Let me just get a bit of speed into it, then it becomes a bit easier. Yeah, indeed, here is the school. This was a prominent place because this is where the children could get taught, and they could attend classes here until grade 8. And apparently there were still school activities here until 1980, when the people in the kloof would become just too few to maintain it. But apparently there's always been a schoolmaster or a teacher here. And the building was multi-purpose, yes, for school, but it was also used for other gatherings of the community and also for church services and so on. There's the teacher and the children. There is a photo of children on their way to school. And then that one is in 1973, when the school still had 11 pupils. So apparently Leni Maree was a renowned teacher, baker, and medicinal plant expert, so she probably acted as doctor for the people in the kloof as well. Yeah, here in front is their house. Apparently Leni Maree built it herself in 1928, but it is quite specific that she built this house. Today you can rent this house. But I'm going to turn around now in the kloof. I'm going to head back out. I think this is a house that we may have missed when I came in. Let's just have a look. See, it's built from mud. Oh yeah, it's called the honeymoon house. But they put a roof on top of it now because this seems to be almost fully built out of mud. So it is quite vulnerable to the elements. Yeah, it's unfortunate that all these trees have burned down in a devastating fire a few years ago. But it actually, to me, it gives a bit of an eerie sense to the Baviaanskloof, because in many ways Baviaanskloof is a mystical place. I mean, it's been in isolation and people stayed here away from the broader society, and then it also now became a ghost valley in many senses. I mean, 160 people stayed here at its heyday, and now there's nobody left basically. I might not get further than second gear for all of this pass, but what fun to ride. Just look back at the Baviaanskloof Valley, how beautiful, and just displaying the Swartberg Mountains. Yeah. Oh, so nice to get some air flowing. Also the air is a bit cooler. But it's another 33 kilometers before we actually link up with Swartberg Pass. What a ride. I'm now almost back to the top of Swartberg Pass, so where the Baviaanskloof road turns off. But I'm just going to take a bit of a break. I need to get some fluid in, some food, and then we are back on the road. Okay, so we make the turn to the right and link up with the spectacular Swartberg Pass. Thomas Bain already built this pass in 1883, and in 1888 it was inaugurated, and a century later in 1988 it was declared a provincial heritage site, this whole pass. It's just so beautiful. Here it says the top, and the altitude 1,575 meters. So certainly you have views to both sides, looking back to the Great Karoo and Prince Albert, and then now towards the Klein Karoo. Let's go. There's probably quite a significant bit of descending to go. Yeah, but look at the views. Look at the views. You can see how neat the building work is. The dry stone walling, that must be the original building work of the 1880s, and it is still intact today as at the time it was built. We are now at the lower slopes of the Swartberg Pass, and indeed now the road becomes tar. So since I departed from Prince Albert this morning, I only done 120 kilometers. I departed just after 7 and it's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so 120 kilometers. If that is the only distance you can do in a day's ride, it tells you something about how rough the roads were. Wat is jou naam? Aubrey. Gaan jy kyk na my bike? Want hier's baie goed wat kan wegraak, né? I made a stop there at Aubrey, the car guard, and he said absolutely no problem. He will look after the motorbike, so I can go and have a look at the caves. Now maybe just a little bit of history. The Karoo caves was discovered, or well, newly discovered in 1780. That's now after the Khoi people that were there, by a person called Jacobus van Zyl, and he stumbled upon it. And when he entered, he didn't realize how big this cave is. And it was later discovered when he was lowered down on a rope that the first hall is as big as a football field. And I know that it's been used as a concert venue and concert hall in previous occasions as well. Yeah, so this is the Van Zyl's Hall, and indeed it is a huge space. One can see how it almost disappears there in the distance. One can just imagine walking into that relatively small entrance space and then not realizing how big this space is. This second chamber is certainly unbelievably spectacular. But your Karoo caves, how good is that? Now you can certainly consider visiting the Karoo caves if you've not done this before. You will not be disappointed. Some more dirt roads. I have no idea what the condition of this road is, but it cannot be worse than Baviaanskloof road. It should be fine. But this little road is now absolutely a bonus. It's such a beautiful, lovely little road to ride. I'm staying in reconverted stables for the night, so you can see all the units are just here, all in a row, but it's obvious old stables. So it's got seemingly the original stable doors. And then just a very, very neat room. On day 3 we arrived from De Rust through Meiringspoort, Klaarstroom, Vondeling and make a stop in Willowmore before proceeding through the Grootrivier Mountains to Kliplaat and ending off in Steytlerville. I had a fantastic night here at De Rustica, just outside of De Rust. Woken up to a beautiful, beautiful morning. There was some heavy rain last night. You can see the puddles in this road. Today I will start from De Rust. I'm just about 5 kilometers outside of De Rust. The name De Rust simply means the rest, and this has always been a place where people that's traveling or doing transport come to make a rest before traversing here through the Swartberg mountain. And the rest was established in the year 1900 when a portion of a farm belonging to a certain person with the surname of Meiring was dedicated to this town. Now, this town has got quite a number of beautiful Victorian buildings. I can see many of these old houses. So some of them might date from the early 1900s. And then the Swartberg Mountains there. Yeah. Bougainvillea of all kinds of colors. Yeah, this is certainly a town one can spend a little bit more time, but today I'm just riding through. But very, very charming. Here is the sign. We are now officially entering Meiringspoort. Petrus Meiring made the first recorded crossing of the Swartberg through this, the valley and poort in 1800. Now that was important because there's no easy ways through this mountain, and to connect the coastal areas of places like Mossel Bay and George to Prince Albert and the Great Karoo, you need to cross through the Swartberg. And this was just one of the most obvious places to try and do it, but it was still a daunting task. So yeah, this is where the names of Bain comes to the picture again. So this pass was actually built by Andrew Geddes Bain, the father of Thomas Bain, and building of this pass started in 1856, so it's much, much sooner or earlier than the Swartberg Pass. So the Meiringspoort was built, and Sewevikspoort just further west in the Swartberg was built long before the Swartberg Pass. But what is interesting about the Bains is that this was the first pass the young Thomas Bain learned his craft by working as an apprentice of his father. So it was inaugurated, this pass or poort, in March 1858. But it's just the sheer drop of the cliffs that makes this so spectacular. And you will see we are crossing this river many, many times. And all of these drifts have names, and they all have a story to tell. So there's 25 of these drifts. This is such a magnificent sight. This pass is 16 kilometers long, so one is treated with this beauty and splendor for quite a distance. So it says here, C.J. Langenhoven, the Afrikaans writer, protagonist of the Afrikaans language. He's also the author of the South African national anthem, and he chiseled the name of the well-known elephant Harry from his book Sonde met die Bure in July 1929. Indeed, there it is. It's quite neatly done, I must say. Can you see it? So this is the handiwork of C.J. Langenhoven. I said this is a national monument site. It says in 1973 the site was declared a national monument to commemorate the centenary of Langenhoven's birth. So now we're almost in the town of Klaarstroom, only 2.5 kilometers. So Klaarstroom is just the closest town to Baviaanskloof on the northern side. So this is the town of Klaarstroom. Now Klaarstroom refers to clear stream, and apparently this was the place before farmers passed through the Swartberg where they will come and wash their wool, because of course the Great Karoo is very much a wool and mohair producing area, so they had to transport their wool. Oh, look at the beautiful houses. They had to transport their wool through the Swartberg mountains, and of course Baviaanskloof was just the obvious place for this to happen. What can be more quintessential Karoo than a thatched roof house with a windmill at the back? Or a wind pump. Okay, so let's depart here from Klaarstroom. The road is now leading us to Willemore, and it is the R407, and as far as I know this will be dirt road. Yep, it is a dirt road. The dirt road starts immediately after we cross. Adventure, this is what it means. And it starts with a puddle. So Willemore is 92 kilometers, so this is quite a significant distance of dirt road. But I expect these dirt roads to be like this, quite smooth and easy to ride. And we will follow the Swartberg on its northern side all the way. Now this R407 to Willemore is proving to be an absolute joy to ride. Yeah, so I made a stop here now at the soccer pitch of Vondeling train station. This is now on the R407 from Klaarstroom. It's about 58 kilometers of riding on this beautiful, beautiful dirt road. But yeah, I need a bit of a leg stretch, a bit of something to drink, and a snack to eat. Getting quite a comfortable steady speed now, around 85 kilometers an hour. So we are going to make the turn into Knysna Road, which is, as far as I know, the main road of Willemore. Willemore was established in 1874. And there is a bit of uncertainty of where the name comes from, but apparently it comes from a person with the name of William Joseph, who owned the farm, the Willows. Okay, so this is Knysna Street. This is probably the heart of Willemore. And there you see the Little Red Bridge. It was built by the Thames Ironworks and Shipbuilding Company in 1904. Now Willemore is probably most famous for being the largest mohair producing place in the world. So in this area, the most mohair in the world is being produced with Angora goats. Oh, 1910 is this building. Yeah, so I made a stop here at Kaput Coffee. apparently that is the best place for coffee in Willowmore. So let's go and have a look what they've got. I certainly need my coffee. I haven't had anything today. I will probably take a bit of an early lunch as well. Yeah, so I just got my lovely cappuccino here from Kaput Coffee in Willowmore. Yeah, this looks good. We will now link on for a very brief distance onto the N9 highway, because to take the road in the direction Steytlerville, we're going to ride one of the most famous roads in the country. Yeah, I've been looking forward to ride this road. I have not ridden this road in many years. Never with a motorcycle, only by car, and mostly when I was a kid. This road is famous because it is a single track cement road. It stretches on this R329 for 36 kilometers. So this cement road was already built in 1952 to 1954. And it's interesting because it was all a case of economics. In that period, 1952, 1954, apparently cement was cheaper than bitumen. So it was cheaper to build a cement road than a tar road. But yeah, we will now continue on this road for another 28 kilometers to turn off in the direction of Fullerton and Kliplaat. But yeah, sit back, enjoy this unique experience of riding the cement road to Steytlerville. Steytlerville is only, if I look at the board here, only 53 kilometers, but I'm gonna ride almost double that distance because I first want to go to Fullerton and Kliplaat. That was now a great ride. So yeah, Kliplaat is 69 kilometers from here, and to get to Kliplaat you need to crisscross through the Groot Rivier mountains. So there one can see the railway track. We are actually going to cross it. All these towns, Fullerton, Kliplaat, they're all got a railway history, of course, because the farmers of this area needed to transport their mohair to the harbours. There's no trains running here. So this is a long gone history, this railway track. Sure, I might be in for some rain. I just saw a thunderbolt there in the distance. Seems I'm not getting away from the heavy weather, and I can hear the thunder rumbling. Actually quite nice to hear this. Can you hear it? So this is the outskirts of Kliplaat. This is probably the police station. Look how beautiful. They've probably got some cells and everything here. I think what is interesting about Kliplaat is that it is very famous actually for a place the Queen has visited. The Queen of England in 1947. She visited this town as part of the Grand Royal Tour of Africa. And at that time, 1947, this was a bustling railway town. So yeah, this is what made this town famous. The weather is hectic here in Kliplaat, so I'm making an immediate exit. I fear I'm going to be caught by the rain because it's coming from that side. the wind is blowing strongly towards this side, so let me just continue. Hopefully I can still outride it a bit. Okay, but let me just get my rain jacket on. Okay, I'm trying to get my rain jacket on, but this is now a hailstorm. So this is quite hectic. I'm just trying to keep the bike upright. I can do nothing else now than to wait it out. At least I recovered my glasses. Sure. This looks quite deep. I will keep on testing it with my feet. It should probably be the deepest here in the middle. Well, so far so good. Now I must go. Getting a bit deeper. Okay, but all good. At least it is a solid road underneath the water. No, this must have been hectic. Oh, can you see the hail? Just look at it. Yeah, it is quite a lot of hail. You can see how it lies white here and also white here next to the road. Yeah, we have now made it to Mount Stewart. Now Mount Stewart, yeah, there's only a few buildings here, but there's a prominent church there. Definitely going to make a stop at the church. Not sure how to get there. Let me go in here. Look at it. Isn't this amazing? The little church, the Anglican church, it's called the Mount Nelson Anglican Church. It's got quite an impressive name, but it is in complete disrepair. 1904, so yes, this church was built in 1904. Ah, there's still a pulpit and the pews to sit in. But it seems this church will just decay further and nothing will stop it. It's actually quite sad. There's the rainbow. Hopefully that means the end of the rain. So Steytlerville was already founded in 1876 and it is named after Abram Isaac Steytler, who apparently was the minister of the Dutch Reformed Church during that time. What strikes you about this town is how wide this main street is. The town was designed like this to allow Oxwagon to be able to turn around on both ends of the main street. I find that fascinating. So the Dutch Reformed Church in Steytlerville was consecrated in 1907 and it is a neo Gothic style. It is huge. Just look at it. What a friendly reception here at the Royal Hotel in Steytlerville, and what a welcoming place. My room is the one here in the corner, so I could park the bike here inside off the street, so that is very cool. And this is my room. So very neat, beautiful double bed, authentic wooden floors. If you then walk out of the room, you have a view over the square, and there's also a swimming pool down there. No, what a lovely place. On day 4, I departed from Steytlerville, but had to make a turnaround and returned to Steytlerville. From there I took another road all the way to Uitenhage and ending for the day in Port Elizabeth. Bye. Steytlerville in the Great Karoo is the mohair, well, one of the main mohair producing areas, of course, and here you can see some of the Angora goats. Highly valued mohair you get from those goats. Now let the dirt roads begin. I'm leaving Steytlerville in a southerly direction because this is a nice dirt road to ride, whereas the other road is a tar road. Well, there are so many big tortoises here in the Karoo, and here in front is another one crossing the road. Fortunately, they are so slow that they get hit by cars sometimes. Just look at this one. This is quite a big one. Hey, mister. Yeah, you have probably noticed it, but I suddenly realized I don't have my neck brace on. I have forgotten this in Steytlerville at the Royal Hotel where I stayed. That is quite interesting. I mean, I didn't even notice it. I've gotten so used to it that I did not realize I have not put it on. Okay, actually, the more I'm thinking about it, I think given that I have time, given the expense of the neck brace, I think I should make a turnaround and return to Steytlerville to go and fetch it, because otherwise it's only 64 kilometers back to Steytlerville. Of course, I'm not really wanting to buy a new one. It's going to be a few thousand rand for that neck brace. And then I will take the quicker route on the tar to Uitenhage. Oh, I'm feeling some raindrops falling. But here is the Royal Hotel. Let me see if they've got my neck brace. Yeah, they were waiting for me here at the hotel. They said, yeah, you forgot something. And Shana, the manager, just brought it out. And she said she was a bit worried and didn't quite know what to do. And I said, no, I had to come back. It is just too an expensive item. Well, I'm not so sure how wet this road is going to be. So I'm just going to be prepared and put on my full rain gear. So both the jacket and the pants. All done. So we are crossing the Groot River here. There's the Lady de Waal Bridge. It was built already in 1913, washed away a few times, 1916, 1921, and then this bridge that we're going over now was built in 1974. So the Lady de Waal Bridge is not in use anymore. And as you can see, I've got my trusted neck brace back.
Yeah, I'm just feeling much more comfortable. I think it was the wise thing to just turn around. So maybe just a little bit of history about Uitenhage. Uitenhage is quite old. It was already established in 1804, and it is, well, Uitenhage, I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is. In Afrikaans we say Uitenhage, in English of course Uitenhage, but the name comes from the Commissioner General of the Cape at the time when it was established, 1804. It's a person with the name of Jacob Abraham Uitenhage de Mist. So yeah, there's quite a number of old historic buildings here. Today the official name of Uitenhage is not Uitenhage anymore. In 2021 the name was changed to Karoo. So the Karoo River also flows here outside of Uitenhage, and we have crossed it when I rode in. So we are now approaching the center of town, and yes, I can already see the famous building. So the building I'm referring to is called the Victoria Tower. It's probably the most well-known building in Uitenhage. It was built between 1896 and 1898. Of course, it's named after Queen Victoria. This is towards the end of her reign, and it's been the law courts for some time in the past. I'm not sure what it's being used for today. But simply stunning. Just a last look at the Victoria Tower. We are now very much at the outskirts of the city of Port Elizabeth. Oh, it is shaking me around. Well, Port Elizabeth is also known as the Windy City. I'm getting a proper welcome. So maybe just a little bit of history about Port Elizabeth. Now, Port Elizabeth is by far the largest city in the Eastern Cape, and it is the sixth largest city in South Africa. It was founded in 1820 by Sir Rufus Donkin, and he named Port Elizabeth after his wife Elizabeth, that died in India. Quite a sad story, I think, but he named it after her. Oh, steep uphill. So there is a memorial to the wife of Sir Rufus Donkin, and that is the Donkin Memorial. So Port Elizabeth, in 2001, the same as Uitenhage and Dispatch, it became part of the Nelson Mandela metropolitan area, and in 2021 the name was actually changed from Port Elizabeth to Gqeberha. So Gqeberha is the official name of Port Elizabeth since 2021, and Gqeberha is the Xhosa and South Koo word for Barkens River, which is a prominent river that flows through the city. It seems like I can just ride up to this memorial a bit to have a look. To the memory of one of the most perfect of human beings who has given their name to the town below. And this lighthouse was built in 1861, so this was to guide the ships into the harbour. Let me make a turn here. And let's have a look at this magnificent building. So this magnificent Victorian Gothic building is the main public library, and it was built in 1902, so it's in the same year that Queen Victoria died. I think it is just fantastic. I mean, it was planned already since 1885, but it was built in 1902, and that statue of Queen Victoria was erected in 1903, so it is in commemoration of her death in 1902. This city hall was built between 1853 and 1862, but the clock tower was added much later, 1883. Isn't it a magnificent building? So it's significantly older than the main public library. Both the city hall and the main public library was declared national monuments in 1973.
On day 5, I depart from Port Elizabeth and take the route via Henkie and Potensie to enter the Baviaanskloof via Doodsklip and all the way to Uitspan Guest Farm.
I need to get out of Port Elizabeth, a windy and wet Port Elizabeth. It is a bit chilly this morning, but I am geared. So let me just keep my eye on the traffic. I am currently on the R102, which is the old traditional route from Port Elizabeth to Cape Town, and it is in fact called Cape Road, although we are of course not very close to Cape Town at the moment. How welcome it is to see some sun. I really hope I will see more of this as the day progresses. Yeah, so now we are starting to descend into the Van Staden's Gorge. The only road you could take is down this, well, steep descent, which is known as the Van Staden's Pass. So this is not a pass crossing a mountain, this is a pass going down quite steeply to traverse quite a significant gorge. And this gorge is known as the Van Staden's Gorge. So maybe a little bit of history. Already in the early 1860s, a person with the name Martinus van Staden, he was the first person to make a crossing of this gorge. And the road was constructed here in 1867 by a person called George Apsey. Yeah, it's an important pass, this Van Staden's Pass, so it was named after Martinus van Staden. From the plateau where we just descended down from, now again to go up on the other side, it's at least 127 meters down. And of course this is not the only way to cross the gorge. These days you have the Van Staden's Bridge, which you can see there in all its splendor. Now this bridge was constructed in 1971, and what is interesting, if you think about riding down the Van Staden's Pass, it takes a bit of time, and certainly you need to take a steep descent and a steep ascent on the other side. It takes a bit of time to go through, but to pass the gorge from that bridge by riding over that bridge only takes 30 seconds. So yes, of course, a huge improvement. And now we made it to the bottom of the Van Staden's Pass, and we're also crossing the Van Staden's River. And there is just another view onto this bridge. Sure. Now we are about to make a turn onto the R331, so we will turn off from the R102, which is of course the old Cape Road, and the R331 to Henkie and Potensie is the road that will take us to the Gamtoos Valley and the Koga Valley, of course ultimately to the beautiful Baviaanskloof. Now we have now made it to the town of Henkie. Henkie is interesting because this is one of 3 towns, as I mentioned, in the Gamtoos Valley. Lurie, Henkie and Potensie, and Henkie is the oldest. So Henkie was the first town here. It was already established in 1826, and it's named after William Henkie, which is he was an ex-banker, but also the secretary of the London Missionary Society. So yeah, so there is quite a long history here in Henkie. It is also known as the place with the largest sundial in the southern hemisphere, and in fact this is just where I'm standing now, is the sundial here behind me. Yeah, so this sundial was erected in 1989. But yeah, interesting. The biggest apparently on the African continent and on the southern hemisphere. Yeah, there is a board a bit obscured by the trees just saying Baviaanskloof straight ahead. That is where we're going. We are leaving Henkie now, and Potensie is only about 15 kilometers, if so much. Now of course this Gamtoos Valley and this area between Henkie and Potensie is a major citrus producing area. So you can see all the citrus trees Well, everywhere you look, you can see the citrus. Yeah, I think we are now more in the center of Patensie. And I will now make a stop here at the petrol station, because although I've only ridden about 92 kilometers, this is the last place to fill up on fuel for a very, very long time. The next stop for fuel will only be Uniondale, and I just want to make sure that I am fully filled up. Yeah, if you can see it there, it's fine. Perfect, perfect. How much is it? 3.5 liters. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I made it now to Patlang's restaurant. This is probably the most famous restaurant in Patensie, and it's right next to the Valley Dutch Reformed Church. But yeah, I want to see whether I can get some nice coffee and breakfast here. Patlangs is famous for their roosterkoek, so I opted for one with, oh, just look at it. Oh, what a nice breakfast with apricot jam and cheese, and of course a cappuccino as always. Yeah, so this is the very, very last of the tar road. Now for at least the next 200 kilometers we will be on dirt road. I don't know if I mentioned, but this trip from Patensie to Uitspan guest farm today is 143 kilometers, and almost all of it will be a scenic ride. So the GPS, when I checked, said it will take me 3.5 hours to ride this 143. I think it will take even longer, but it's only now 25 past 10 in the morning, so I've got the whole day. And of course you don't want to take the Baviaanskloof road quickly. You want to experience it. You want to see the beauty. Yeah, here it says Baviaanskloof, a World Heritage Site, so its significance is a lot. Apparently the different plant species you get in the Baviaanskloof is just unparalleled. And this is the start of the Groot Rivier Poort. You can see it already narrows a bit here. Yeah, this is going to be slow riding. Even where I can go fast, I will not go fast. Why rush this when you have the whole day? Drink in the beauty. But let's just maybe reflect a little bit more on Thomas Bain. Thomas Bain built this pass between 1880 and 1890, so that was actually very late in his life, and it provided true access to the, well, wilderness area of the Baviaanskloof between Patensie and Willowmore. And this is regarded as one of his most significant works, simply because of the length of this road. I mean, as I said, 200 kilometers, and it was also one of the last roads that he built, because Thomas Bain died in 1893, so not very long after he built this road. Yeah, indeed, we are now at the gate of the Baviaanskloof Nature Reserve. Okay, so we are now at the Poortjies Gate. So we came in with the Groot River, and then we're going to go up this pass, which is called Kombrink's Pass, and then Bergplaas is on top of the plateau, and we come down the Holgat Pass, pass by Doodsklip, and then at Smitskraal there's quite a long drift, about probably about 80 meters long, that you need to go through water. And then the Grasnek Pass is what's taking you through these twists and turns. And then the Western Gate, and then Uitspan is the other side of the Western Gate. So this is what's lying ahead. We are now into the Poortjies Valley, which I think some of the best examples of some of the indigenous forests here in the Baviaanskloof Nature Reserve. So the Swartberg Pass is one of at least 3 passes in the Baviaanskloof, and this is the steepest one and also the highest altitude. Yeah, we already made quite a climb. Look at some of the views back. Beautiful. Yeah, this side there is sheer drops down. Yeah, but so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If there's a car coming from the front, this is not the easiest place to get by or to pass each other. No, Swartberg Pass, highly recommend it. Yeah, we are almost on the top now. Yeah, but these views back are simply spectacular. Let's just have a look. Yeah, just look at it. Yeah, so this is looking back from almost at the top of the Swartberg Pass. Yeah, so we made it now to the plateau area. So this is Bergplaats. So it's quite an elongated or wide plain of grassland at quite an altitude. So I think this is what adds to the biodiversity here, because you probably are getting plant species that's unique to this area, and we are high up. Yeah, one can see very far. I don't expect to see many other vehicles or motorcycles. So just for this moment, I can enjoy it on my own. Yeah, we made it now to the other side of the Bergplaats plateau. There is a bit of an information board here, actually 3 boards. So they talk about some of the species that you get here. Now this road is a bit rougher than I thought it's going to be. It's simply water damage, but you can see how the road falls away here in front. So with the Swartberg Pass, many parts are covered by this concrete slabs, but this must have been done a very long time ago, because a lot of these concrete slabs are also eroded away. So I have to keep my eyes on the road. See, so it's not always that easy to just stay on the concrete slabs, but it resembles the Hell or the Baviaanskloof road down, don't you think? There's also some concrete patches on that road. You can also look down very far below where you are going. Yeah, I think we are almost at the bottom of the Swartberg Pass. Yes, here we are crossing the stream. I think let me take off my rain jacket and make a stop here. This now feels much better, and the sun is coming out, so this is looking very good. Now, quite clear water, you can see exactly where you're going. Jo, that was a hartebeest, I think. It's almost a bit late to see it. Yeah, we've now made it to Doodsklip, so let's just make a turn and have a quick look what the area here at Doodsklip looks like. I don't know much about Doodsklip, but I think there's campsites here, probably some wild campsites. Let's just have a bit of a further look. You see there's some numbering here. This is Doodsklip, so this is what the campsites look like, and there seems to be even some toilet facilities, so it can be quite pleasant to camp here, I would think. Now, so this section is really steep, so this concrete stacking's certainly helping. Oh, some beautiful water crossings here. Yeah. So what makes it a bit treacherous, these water crossings, the loose stones, but that one was okay. Just look how lush and green this valley is in the Smithskraal area. At least the water is quite clear, but it is quite slippery, so that is the problem. Find my way through. This is still a concrete part, so it should be okay. I think the deepest part is this part coming here, but it's now about not letting the bike fall over. So far so good. Okay, my shoes are a bit wet, but I might be through the worst part. Okay, but there's certainly less water than I remember, because these parts can be quite full of water, but now it's quite open. Okay, there seems to be a bit of a deeper part coming again. How much fun is this? Almost there, almost there. So this side of Smithskraal is actually a bit deeper, but I'm almost there. Okay, my shoes are a bit wet, but I'm through. I'm through. Yeah. As I said, I was worried about this, but I made it to Smithskraal. Let me make a stop. The sock is a bit wet, so let me see if I just rinse out the sock a bit, whether there will be some water coming out. Ah, indeed, a little bit. I suspect this might be the start of the Knysna Pass. I can see some more evidence of this dry stone building work. You can see how the road is climbing up there in front. I can certainly feel that we've climbed now. Suddenly a bit cooler, a bit more of a breeze, but yeah, the views. Let me just make a quick turn here, because I believe this is where the viewpoint is. Yeah, indeed. Ah, there is the Sentinel Peak. Once you get to Knysna, the sentinels of Baviaanskloof becomes visible, so you can see these sharper peaks, and certainly that one there at the back is clearly visible. I have to get through. This is this is the road. So let me see. Yeah, that was quite a deep patch there, but hopefully the rest is okay. Now I can see, so okay, it is not as bad as I thought it's going to be, but there's a few stones here. I'm through. My right foot got a bit wet, but I'm just going to continue. Yo, this is such a beautiful little path. Yo, it's just winding itself through the vegetation. Okay, this is going to be a challenge. There's lots of mud. Let me rather go to the right. I cannot see the other end. I suspect it's getting deeper and deeper there in the middle. Yeah, so far so good. At least I'm keeping my balance. It's a bit stinky. Okay, I'm getting through. Yeah, at Karoo. Don't know if you saw it, but it jumped straight over a large bush. That was friendly Knysna at the western gates of the Baviaanskloof. So we are through. Baviaanskloof of course continues, but we are now back on farm area. Yeah, so the Dutch Reformed Church was the first church that was established in the kloof, and here on the right hand side is the Baviaanskloof Dutch Reformed Church. Let's just make a stop. So this church was built in 1918, but it is actually the second church, because the first church, or the second church building, because the first church building actually washed away in a flood in 1916. Let's have a closer look. No, the beauty is not ending. The beauty continues. This road is absolutely amazing. Sure. Yeah, so I made a stop here at Werner's restaurant and craft shop in the hope of getting some roosterkoeken, but I didn't. Well, I thought there might not be. It's maybe a bit late in the day. It's now close to 5 o'clock, and I spoke to Vera, and she said, no, unfortunately, she's out of roosterkoeken. Yeah, so this is Vera's vars roosterkoek restaurant. And she's got seating area here, right next to the road. And she's got a beautiful garden. Yeah, the roses are absolutely stunning. When I made this booking, I simply contacted Nico and Alta from Uitspan and asked whether they will have accommodation for me, and they said no problem. They've got a self-catering unit. What a friendly reception here at Uitspan Guest Farm by Nico. So in the end he put me in one of their permanent caravans. So this is not the first time on Werner's View that I will be sleeping in a permanent caravan, but the setup here looks fantastic. There's 2 caravans, so I can choose in which one I want to stay, but you can see all of this is under one roof. So lovely space to just relax, and there's a braai. So you've got the first one, nice big bed. Oh, this side is also a bed, Oh, so there's quite a lot of sleeping space here.
Sure, but what a day, what a day. This trip was one of the best trips I've ever done on Werner's View in terms of enjoyment, continuous beauty, challenge of riding the road, and yeah, I'm just glad I can bring this to you.
On day 6, we depart from Uitspan on the western side of the Baviaanskloof and ride all the way to the town of Uniondale and Avontuur before passing through the spectacular Prince Alfred's Pass until we get to Knysna.
Good morning and welcome back to Werner's View. And welcome here to the beautiful, beautiful Uitspan guest farm. Of course, Uitspan is here on the western side of the beautiful Baviaanskloof. This is the entrance or the start of the Uniondale Pass, I believe. It is now only 7:15 in the morning, so the sun is still sitting relatively low. This whole boulder has a crack there behind the tree. So the legend is that if this boulder happens to fall over, the Baviaanskloof will be locked forever. So this is indeed the key from the western side to get into Baviaanskloof. Beautiful. And this is Raaskrans. So legend have it that this is a tight turn right next to the rock face, and that you actually had to hoot because Raas means to make a noise, so you need to make a noise around this turn to warn others that you are coming. So I suppose we need to follow this legend. How beautiful.
No, this part of the Karoo is to me simply stunning. But yeah, there's no part of the Karoo that I don't like. It is just such a beautiful, beautiful space to spend some time, and then to ride it by motorcycle. For me, special. It's the first time I'm riding these roads so far from home. Yeah, it's a beautiful farm. Yeah. Swartberg means far mountain. Okay, this is the end of the dirt road. This was quite a long dirt road, at least 200 kilometers on dirt since we left Potensie yesterday, and we are linking up now on the N9, which is the road that will take us to Uniondale. Yeah, so maybe just a little bit of history of Uniondale. So Uniondale is a town that was formed in 1856 when two smaller towns, or two adjacent towns called Hopedale and Lyon, was merged. Of course, one cannot talk about Uniondale without talking about the ghost of Uniondale. I think the ghost story of Uniondale is probably the most famous ghost story of any ghost story in South Africa. But when I researched a bit for this trip, I realized, there's many interesting things in Uniondale. This is apparently the biggest water wheel in South Africa. Maybe just a bit of history. It was built between 1852 and 1856 by a certain James Stewart. It has been operated for more than 100 years. It is certainly quite big. And now we're going to have a last look at the water wheel. So this is certainly a very historic site. 170 years old. I find it fascinating.
And I made a stop at this magnificent church building in Uniondale. So this is the Dutch Reformed Church. It is built out of stone. This congregation was already established in 1866. The church was built a little bit later. In 1884 it was completed.
During the time of the Anglo-Boer War, that happened in 1899 to 1902, there were 5 forts built by the British to, I suppose, defend the town, and some significant skirmishes between the Boers and the Brits took place here. And the Boers actually succeeded in 1901 to take over the town of Uniondale twice. I find that quite interesting. But there were 5 of these forts built, and today one can view one of them that was beautifully restored. But what about some more dirt road riding? I mean, I will never say no to this, especially if it's beautiful little dirt tracks like this one. It feels like I'm back in the Baviaanskloof Road, or maybe somewhere in the Baviaanskloof. Whoa! What an exciting little road. There is the stone structure of the fort. Okay, we've made it now back to Queen Street. Now, of course, this road to Avontuur is also taking us in the direction of the Prince Alfred's Pass. Now, Queen Street Road is beautiful, and I can only assume that it refers to Queen Victoria, because Uniondale was established or founded already 1856, and that was, of course, during the long reign of Queen Victoria. Of course, Avontuur is also the end point of the Avontuur railway track, the narrow gauge 2-feet railway track that runs all the way to Port Elizabeth. Oh, this is probably more the center of Avontuur. Indeed, this is the train station, and this must be the narrow gauge locomotive. Look at it. It's incredible to think that the width of the wheels only 2 feet on this train. And that railway track was already built late 1890s to 1908, I think, so it operated for a long time. Interesting. So if you come to Avontuur, you can come and have a look at the locomotive of the Avontuur railway line.
This is the end of tar road. We immediately jump onto dirt road here at Avontuur to of course start riding the Prince Alfred's Pass. In many ways the Prince Alfred's Pass is also considered one of his biggest engineering achievements, because this pass is the longest publicly accessible pass in South Africa. So typically when you ride a pass or drive a pass, it might be 8 kilometers. If it's really long, maybe 20 kilometers long for a pass. But the Prince Alfred's Pass is a continuous pass for 68 kilometers. Yeah, so Thomas Bain built this pass in 1861 to 1867 with 270 convict laborers.
You can see how the road snakes down here. So I think in this pass there's going to be a continuous up and down, and then of course crossing rivers and small rivers running down from the mountain. So I think with a pass of this length, it's inevitable that there's going to be a lot of variation. Yeah, I'm loving the twists at this elevated position. Just beautiful, beautiful views. Yeah, I find it fascinating to have the open spaces and then the road disappearing or crawling here through some of the denser vegetation. I love this variation. Yeah, but the drop on this side is hectic. These structures remain intact, even though it was built 160 years ago. So I find it amazing, because you can see the slope here required significant building up of the road on the side. So this is continuous stonework all the way now. I now made a stop here next to the river after we've descended already quite a bit, but the road is still going down. But I think this is probably some of the most beautiful parts of the Prince Alfred's Pass. Let's just have a bit of a closer look at this stonework here in the river. It is quite large boulders that are used for this. It fascinates me how hard labor this must have been. Sure. Now, this is a particularly narrow section. So you had no choice but to cross the little river here. Jy loer nog. That means you are still looking. There's lots of blind turns here. You can simply not go too fast. There's no way of seeing anything coming from the front. So this is where the Keurboom's River flows, and this is where we cross it. But the Vlucht has got a very interesting history. Yes, I'm not sure if this is the house that Thomas Bain built. It certainly looks quite old. I mean, he built the house in 1862. And if you look at the stonework here, that could very well be the house that Thomas Bain built for his family. Yeah, so for a multi-year project like building the Prince Alfred's Pass, it was better for Bain to bring his whole family, and they just stayed in this beautiful kloof during the time of construction. Prince Alfred was the son of Queen Victoria, I think her fourth child, so it is simply named after Prince Alfred, the son of Queen Victoria. And of course it was built, like all Bain's passes were built during the reign of Queen Victoria. It's interesting to see how the vegetation changes as we progress. We are getting closer to the sea all the time, and then there's also quite big variation in altitude. Suddenly it's so much cooler under these trees. I can just feel it in my face. And this is the road to Spitskop. They call it Spitskop Eysternek Nature Reserve. But Spitskop is a very interesting place because this is the highest viewpoint in the Knysna area. So we should be able to see very far once we get there. Oh, this is steep. Yeah, and we made it to the top of Spitskop. And when you stand here, you can see all the way to the sea, but you can also see the sea of forest. And then all the way one can see to Knysna, to the Knysna heads. So this is really an incredible viewpoint. Okay, this is the Prince Alfred Pass. Again, let's continue. When one rides like this, it feels like endless forest. So, and of course, there were elephants in the Knysna forest. Apparently, there's one left. That's quite sad, of course, to have only a single elephant left. But it was spotted the other day. I remember a news article on this. Let's just go up here to the Diepwalle tea house. Ah, we made it to Diepwalle. We park here. I think, seeing that this is a tea room, let me have some tea. I didn't have much of a breakfast this morning, so this is going to be very welcome. I'm feeling a bit hungry, so I ordered 2 toasted sandwiches. This is going to be good. Sure, that was now a lovely cup of tea, toasted sandwiches. I'm feeling quite refreshed. So now I'm just making a stroll away here from the Diepwalle tea house to the Forest Legends Museum. Yeah, this zinc house represents probably what a house of a forester they look like. Oh, and then there's a big display room with indigenous wood samples. How interesting is that? But yeah, it's the next room that contains a magnificent display of the skeleton of a Knysna elephant. Just look at it. Yeah. So this is a skeleton of an elephant bull discovered in 1983 in Harkerville. You just see even the bottom of the trunk is way above my head. All I can say is if you find yourself in the Knysna area, make a visit to the Forest Legends Museum. There's also the wonderful Diepwalle tea room where you can have some coffee or tea. It's just a very, very relaxing stop. But yeah, I want to continue now with the trip. Of course, the end destination for today is Knysna. Yeah, so there in the distance you can see where the lagoon opens up into the sea. So the name of George Rex is quite prominent here in Knysna, and we are actually now on George Rex Drive. George Rex was a British entrepreneur in the early 1800s, and he is more generally referred to or recognized as the person that founded Knysna. So this is the East Head parking area. Just look how beautiful. Yeah. So that is the Western Head on the opposite side. So you can see there on top is the viewing points on the top of the Eastern Head, and that is the Featherbed Nature Reserve. You can see how narrow this passage is from the sea to the Knysna Heads. So you will have difficulty taking a sailing boat through here, so it must have been quite treacherous in the past, and certainly there's a lot of shipwrecks here. Let me just show you the place that I'm staying tonight in Knysna. The place is called Shell's Corner Cottage. The CRF is parked quite securely here, and then you enter the unit through this sliding door. So yeah, quite a spacious room with a double bed. Shell's Corner Cottage in Knysna. I think it is a good one.
Day 7 starts in Knysna and we ride through the towns of Uniondale and Karoo before heading to the coast at Wilderness. We proceed through George to make it to the towns of Hartenbos and Mosselbaai and proceeding on to the town of Gouritsmond before we head off to Steytlerville where we end the day.
From Knysna you can take the N2 as the shortest route to Mosselbaai, but you know me, I'm not going to take the shortest route. I want to take a few more of the back road. We are now in the main street of Knysna, which is also the N2 highway. So Knysna is now the one town where the N2 really squeezes through the town center. This is the beautiful, beautiful Knysna Lagoon. The heads where it connects with the sea is there in the distance. You will not be able to see it from here. We are now very close to Uniondale. Uniondale is simply a rural community here close to Knysna. Maybe the Uniondale road was also part of the Seven Passes road, but I would take the start of a dirt road as the official start of the Seven Passes road. So who built the Seven Passes road? You guessed it, Thomas Bain. Thomas Bain in the 1880s also built this road, and it was a very important road because this was the main road linking George with Knysna, and there's a few gorges that had to be crossed, so that's why you couldn't build the road closer to the sea. And we immediately jump into the Honda Pass, which is a 5-kilometer pass, and this was apparently the most difficult part of the road for Bain to build. Yeah, but here you can see the forest beautifully, beautifully. Yo, it's a bit of a shame that it is raining at the moment, but it is thick and lush. Yeah. Now the Honda Pass is certainly a pass that you can take if you want to see the forest. Yeah. Omtini apparently is a Khoisan word referring to difficult passage, and this is apparently due to the difficulty they had to take their cattle from inland to the coastal areas. I can imagine that getting anything passing through this forest must be difficult. A beautiful little bridge. Apparently only apart from that bridge that we crossed now, this pass is still exactly as it was originally built. Now this road to Karoo is simply beautiful. This is a hall, that's probably the town hall. It's called the Protea Hall, and it was built in 43. Yeah, so the church will also then not be that old. I assume you can see it's more of a modern structure. Apparently the word Karoo comes from a Kukun word simply meaning horse hill. So yeah, but Karoo, it's actually to me it's a beautiful name. Just quickly turned around because I see the sign here, Woodville Big Tree, 600 meters, so let's just go and have a look. Yeah, so I made a stop here at the Woodville. It's a nature reserve, but it's part of the Garden Route National Park Wilderness. And this is the Woodville Big Tree. They say it's only about 80 meters down. Yeah, it's really a walk into the forest. Just look at that tree. Wow. Sure, Outeniqua yellowwood. It says the age here is plus minus 800 years. It is the Hoopville Pass that will take us now down to Wilderness and the sea. The Seven Passes road between George and Knysna does not follow close to the sea because there are simply too many deep gorges. So the Hoopville Road is simply then a road from the Seven Passes Road to get, what is it, on the eastern side of these gorges that, yeah, cuts wilderness basically off from George.
Well, it looks so lovely here at the Blue Olive in Wilderness that I decided let's have a sit down and enjoy my coffee here outside. So this is my cappuccino, looking very welcome. I was actually looking forward to some coffee.
This cliff area here, I don't know if this is known as the Baviaanskloof Pass, but of course this is the part of the road that probably was the most difficult to build when the N2 was built here at Wilderness. Yeah, but the views from here is simply spectacular, but it's a bit tricky now with the road work, so I have to keep my eye on the road. Yeah, so although the GPS wants me to go straight on the N2, I'm just taking the turn off or the exit ramp here to George, to York Street, which is of course also the main street of George. George is the second largest town or city in the Western Cape. Although there was a settlement here since 1777, the name of the town of George was given on the 23rd of April 1811 on St. George's Day, and it was named after King George III, which was the reigning monarch at the time. This main street of York is then also named after the son of King George III, who was Prince Frederick, the Duke of York. So a very strong English influence in history. Yeah, this is the R102, so it's the very same road that we took out of Port Elizabeth, although we are now 450 kilometers down the road. We are crossing over the Grootbrak River here. Yeah, so this is the busy town of Hartenbos. You will see a lot of these asbestos or wooden houses here, and there's a very specific reason for this. So when the Arte Café established this place, you could lease permanently a plot here as a vacation, well, where you can put up or build a vacation home, but the one condition was that you cannot build a brick structure. You must only build asbestos or wood or so. So that's why you see many of these asbestos houses. But yeah, that condition fell away in 1994 when people were allowed to outright buy the plots, and they could build houses also from brick. I don't know, can you feel the holiday atmosphere? I can certainly feel it, even though it's not summer yet. Come December, this place fills up to the brink. So we made the turn into George Road here in Mossel Bay. So Mossel Bay is quite an old town, and I think one of the most significant things about Mossel Bay is that it is here in Mossel Bay where the first European set foot in South Africa, when the seafarers explored, and that was of course Bartholomew Diaz from Portugal. We even know the exact date. He set foot here on 3 February 1488. Yeah, that is long ago. This is the mother church of the Dutch Reformed Church in Mossel Bay. So there's also a church, so I'm not sure. It looks like it's part of the same complex. Maybe this is the first church and maybe that's the second church. I really like the atmosphere. I like the old world charm feeling that you still get. I mean, look at this church. Natural stone church. Oh, what church is this? St. Peter's. It seems like this might be a Catholic. Sure. Look at this one. It's the high school, built in 1909. How beautiful here, right here at the point. Sure. Ah, there is the Cape St. Blaise cave. Yeah, and apparently a lot of important archaeological discoveries were made from the sediment and early inhabitants of this cave. it's got such a perfect vantage point, because if you now look at the view back, it is simply spectacular. Sure. We are now at the Grootmond turnoff, but it is also the turnoff to Vleesbaai and Bochumsbaai. Yeah, there's no barrier for this, so I just have to watch out for the wind blowing over this bridge. Yeah, we have now made it to Grootmond. I will just want to see if I can actually get to the sea to see the mouth of the Groot River. It is more of a beach area, but Grootmond must be there in the distance, not quite visible from here. But I think this whole bay area forms part of the mouth of the Groot River. Kusweg, so this is the coastal route. That's exactly what I'm looking for, so sounds good. It says it's a dead end, so let's see. I am unsure about this route. I hope I don't have to turn around at some point. A wonderful piece of dirt road to just ride almost on the beach. Yo. And indeed, I think I now reached a gate. So this is now the turnaround point. We are still 40 kilometers away from Steytlerville and we are hitting the dirt road. How great is this? The adventure and enjoyment level is now just gonna multiply. Yeah, I think this will remain a dirt road for most of the road now. Yeah, what an exciting road this was. Oh, I really enjoyed it. In some stretches you got beautiful views on the sea, although the road itself is not so close to the sea. Steytlerville has many interesting and beautiful things to see and to do, but maybe let's start with the ancient history. So the Blombos Cave is situated about 12 kilometers away from Steytlerville, and that is apparently one of the very first places where humans resided in a cave. The remnants goes back a long way, and so there's a lot of important archaeological studies that's being done in the Blombos Cave. And here in Steytlerville you can go and view this by going to the Palengat. There's a place there where you can go and look at eels in their natural environment at Palengat. Of course, a eel in Afrikaans is paling. Yeah, but just look how beautiful this Gouke River is. So at the Palengat there's a beautiful little museum that's also commemorating and displaying all the important archaeological findings here in Steytlerville. So, but there's also other ancient history, the fish traps or the visvijvers. There's ancient fish traps that the Khoi people built, and some of them goes back 2,000 years, and they are clearly visible if you go and view them or visit them. But yeah, I'm just remaining now here on the eastern side of Steytlerville. You can see the lagoon is now relatively full, so with high tide it pushes up.
Day 8 starts from Still Bay, and we make a stop in Riversdale and also in Heidelberg before heading to Swellendam and Rivier Sonderend, and then all the way to Cape Town, where we go down the Swartberg Pass and end the day and the trip in Cape Town.
Good morning. I'm departing here from Still Bay early in the morning. It is now 7 o'clock. And I'm starting here from the beautiful Karoo River, which is now much more empty than when I arrived yesterday. Come Honda CRF 300 rally, after 2,000 kilometers you are still going strong, and you will take me home safely. I have no doubt about it. We made it now to the beautiful town of Riversdale, here on the foot of the Langeberge. You cannot see the mountain really today, but of course the Langeberge stretches all the way alongside the N2 from here. I just want to make a quick stop at a particular building in Riversdale that I want to see. Here it is in front of us. Let me just make a turn here to see whether we can just see it from the front. Now, what an extraordinary building. So this is the St. Matthew's Anglican Church. So this was built between 1854 and 1856 by a Bishop Gray. And what is interesting is that apparently the design of this church was done by a lady called Sophie Gray. Now, I don't know whether she was related to the bishop, but the Greys played an important part in establishing this church. 1856. How extraordinary. The next stop on the road is the town of Heidelberg or Heidelberg, which is only about 30 kilometers away. We made it now to the town of Heidelberg. So let's just make a turn here off the N2. What a beautiful setting. Now, the reason why I want to come to Heidelberg is because this takes us back another leap in history. I mean, a leap back in history, because this town has got some very, very old history. And the first place I want to go to is to the house of Louis Fourie. Now, Louis Fourie was a farmer which had a farm here called Doornboom, and he built the farmhouse already in 1728. Now that is very long ago, but the extraordinary thing is that house, as built, still exists today in the town of Heidelberg, because it was on this farm Doornboom that the town of Heidelberg was established. Now I like to follow the old history in South Africa of the people that settled here, and this is really taking it back quite a bit. So it's known as the Doornboom Opstal, and here it is. Sure, how extraordinary. Built in 1728.
So this is just 3 years short of 300 years old, as you would expect from that time, but just look how small the windows are. If you want to see a special place in Heidelberg, come to the Doornboom Opstal. It will take you back far in history. But let's continue.
Well, I have not originally planned this, but I'm going to make a turn off into the extraordinary town of Swellendam. For places established and named in the 1700s, it will all have a Dutch connotation, because that was when the Dutch ruled South Africa. Just look here on the right hand side. This is the old Drossday, or the Oude Drossday. This is some of the oldest buildings in Swellendam. Definitely built since the mid 1700s and changed and expanded many times. But yeah, the reason why I'm taking this ride is just to have another look at this Dutch Reformed Mother Church in Swellendam. It is here hidden behind the tree. This is an absolute masterpiece. Apparently this is one of the most photographed buildings in South Africa. So this church was built in 1911, apparently after the previous one. I don't know, burned down or had to be demolished. Beautiful. It's a combination of three building styles: Baroque, Gothic and Cape Dutch. So it's just a beautiful architectural combination. Welcome to the town of Rivier Sonder End. Here on the foothills of the Rivier Sonder End mountains. What I find interesting is the original Khoi name for this area is Kana Kam Kana, and it's got the same meaning as Rivier Sonder End. Isn't it a beautiful name? Kana Kam Kana. I thought initially I'm gonna make a stop for coffee, but I think I'm only gonna have, I remember I bought some chocolate milk in Knysna, so I think I'm just gonna make a stop here at the back of Old Meal and then have my chocolate milk. Yeah, this is the hairpin bend in the Hohoek Pass. So, but the middle section was initially called Coles Pass, and today it is known as Hohoek. And Hohoek refers to the Dutch hold back in the corners, and that was still in the days of Oxwagon when people took this pass. Yeah, and of course downhill to the famous Hohoek farm stall. So yeah, if you don't get parking right in front of the store or the padstal, there's also some lovely shaded spots here. So if you've got dogs, this is the place to stop with dogs. Yeah, this is the summit of Sir Lowry's Pass at 450 meters. Yeah, and this brings us to Cape Town, but first Somerset West. Maybe just to mention that this part of the St. Lowry's Pass that we are riding now is built by reinforced concrete, and it was built as recent as 1984 to widen this part of the St. Lowry's Pass to a 4-lane highway, and there's also a railway track running along this side. So this is a very strategic crossing of the Holland Mountain, both for cars and train. So originally this pass was built between 1828 and 1830, so a very long time ago. Yeah, I made it back to Cape Town. There is the beautiful mountain, Devil's Peak and Table Mountain. What a trip. I don't know where I'm going next. I will still have to think and plan this, but for now I'm simply looking forward getting back home, seeing Annelie again after 8 days, and the kids, catching up with the dogs. Frikkie is also, I've been missing Frikkie a bit. So yeah, I'm going to end the video here. I'm safely back in Cape Town. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel, and then until the next series and the next trips, keep well and bye bye.